Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would film my February reading wrap up. There is only one day left in February and I don't think I'm going to get to read any more books, so I'm going to film this now. In January I read 7.5, which I'll explain, books. I read this many pages. I read one fantasy book. I read 4 mystery type books, thrillery books, and I read 2 romance books. I had 1 soft DNF that is a romance book that I'll talk about, and I have another book that I'm currently reading that I've been reading all month that I'll talk about that I'm gonna add to this month. So let's get into what I read. First, let me talk about the books that were already in previous videos. So let me grab those. In February, I filmed a video where my dog picked my reads, which you can watch linked down below, and there will be a card up here that you can click. And I read 3 books in that, and those were Cover Story by Susan Regretti, Killjoy by Holly Jackson, and The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I'm not going to talk too much in depth on these here because I talked about them in there, but if you don't want to go watch that, I will tell you what I rated these books. So I rated The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood a 3.75 stars. My main note was the book was a little longer than I think it should have been, and the male main character wasn't really intriguing to me. Those were my main notes about this. Then for Killjoy, I rated this 3 stars. My main notes about this was that if you've already read the series, this is a great addition for some more character depth. If you've never read the series and you're thinking about starting it, don't start with this one. And if you've read the series and don't really want to pick it back up, you're not missing out. And for Cover Story by Susan Regretti, my rating was 4.75 stars. This was by far one of my favorite reads this month, if not my favorite read this month. I think it might have been my favorite, most surprising read this month, which I talk about in that video. My main points about this were super quick to read, super intriguing to read. The premise is interesting, and the way that it's written is like nothing I've ever read before. I would recommend this to pretty much anyone. I think this is a really great book. So, putting those aside, since I've already talked about them in depth, I'm gonna go into the books that I didn't talk about in depth. The first book that I read in February is The Housemaid's Secret, which is the second book in the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. I don't know why I waited so long to pick up the second book. I think the main reason was I gave this book to someone to read it and they just had it for a while, so I didn't have it in my possession. This was the first book I read. I rated this a 3.75, which I think is pretty good. I've heard a lot of people not like the second 2 books in this series. Obviously, I haven't read the third one yet, so I don't know how to say, but this definitely wasn't as good as The Housemaid. The Housemaid was really good. My main points for this are, without spoiling anything, she comes in with a boyfriend, the main character does, and I just did not like that relationship at all. Like, the way that they interacted was not, like, interesting to me. Like, it just felt repetitive and I didn't like that at all. But I really, really liked the ending, and I thought that was really, really, really interesting. So I think you would like this series if you like class disparity, if you like thrilling mysteries, you will like this. And if you like a book with an unreliable narrator, which from this month, I read so many books with unreliable narrators that I'm finding out that I really actually like that. I really like that. So if you like any of those things, you will enjoy this book. The second book that I read in February is a book called Dig 2 Graves by Gretchen McNeil. I rated this book a 3 star, which is pretty average. It wasn't an awful read, but it wasn't a great read. I thought that the plot was really interesting, but also a little bit disturbing, which is fine. I like thriller mystery type books, which is what this is, but it just felt a little much. Especially because it's a teen book. I felt like for a teen book, that's a little much. There was a lot of talk about sexuality and mental health and stuff like that, which I think teens definitely need to hear about. But it felt too try hard in the way that it was written. It felt unnatural. It didn't feel like it was a part of the story. It felt like a PSA, and I just didn't like that at all. So it was fine. The plot was fine. It just wasn't like a favorite book. I wouldn't read it again, and I probably wouldn't, it wouldn't come to mind if I was recommending a book to someone. Then I read the 3 books that I already talked about. And after that, I read Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer, which is the 3rd book in the Part of Your World series. I would like to preface with, I haven't read any of the other books. I didn't read the 1st book, I didn't read the 2nd book. So, but I was told that you could read it as a standalone, and I read it as a standalone, and it was just fine reading it that way. So if you've been hesitant to pick it up, don't worry about the fact that it's in a series. I don't know, because I haven't read it, if the series adds anything to this book that I didn't get. I don't know, maybe somebody in the comments can let you know. But I rated this book a 4.25 stars, which I think is very good. I loved this book. I flew through it. Originally, I was going to make this a part of a challenge video that I was going to do, and I didn't end up doing that, but I think I mentioned that in another video, possibly. My main notes were that Justin in this book, the main character Justin, is by far my favorite main male character that I have ever read about, I think. He is exactly what I picture as like the perfect male main character. I loved him so much. Like, I was rooting for him so much. I think the story was really good and the writing was really good. I think the only thing holding me back from a 5-star is that there were just like a couple of scenes that were included that I was sitting there thinking like, I could have gone without that. Like, for example, one that doesn't ruin the story at all is like, there's like 2 or 3 pages where she describes the fact that they're both really sick, like throwing up really sick. And I just felt like, you know what? I didn't need that. You could have gotten that across in a different way. Didn't need that. So there was like scenes like that where I was like, that was pointless and I didn't need it. I think that you would like this book if you really like fake dating, if you like summer romances, if you like the opposites attract trope. I think you would really like this book. This book, in a nutshell, is about Justin and Emma. Emma feels she is cursed, that every single person that she dates goes on to find their soulmate, and Justin feels like he has the same thing. Well, Emma finds a Reddit thread that Justin has posted and is like, wow, I go through that too. So they start talking online and basically decide that if they date each other, the curse will go away and they will then find their significant others. So they start like fake dating, and yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but that's what this is about, and it is so good. I would recommend this to anyone. The last book that I read fully in February is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I'm gonna be honest, Throne of Glass was not like my favorite book ever. I liked it a lot, don't get me wrong, I really liked it, but it just like wasn't my favorite book ever. And from the way people talked about it, I thought I was gonna be like so in love, can't wait to get my hands on the 2nd book, like ready to go with it. And I just wasn't. I don't know if that's because I read Fourth Wing and that was just like really big for me, and then I read that right after. I don't know if that had an effect on it, but let me tell y'all, this book is a 5-star book. 100% this book is a 5-star book. I don't know what it was about Throne of Glass, the first one. I felt a little confused. I felt like I didn't know where the story was going. I felt like I just didn't know what was happening half the time. This book started that way a little bit, but within like 100 pages, I was in it. I was in the story. I was ready for the storyline. There was 2 moments where my jaw literally dropped open. Like, Zach was sitting next to me and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going through it. So 2 big jaw-dropping moments in this book. If you've read this, I don't know how, like, again, this is where I'm at. So I haven't read any of the other books, but Mort is so funny. Like, the first book, I didn't feel like there was that many funny scenes. Mort is so funny. I felt like the characters actually had, like, I could understand their personalities better in this book. This book has catapulted me into the series. I need to finish the series now. So, yeah. Now, let's get into one book that I DNF'd and one that I'm just not finished with. The book that I DNF'd is Romancing Miss Stone by M.C. Bon. I made it to page 160 in chapter, look at my thing, in chapter 13, and it's not awful. Like I said, it's a soft DNF. I think I'll finish it at some point. It just was like really putting me in a reading slump. Like, it's only like 200 and something pages. It's only 280 pages, which is not that long. comparatively, and I felt like it was dragging. I read it for like 4 days and only made it 160 pages in. Like, I just was not in it. I don't know if I wasn't in the mood for it or what it was, but I just was not in it. I think in the easiest way I can explain this story feels pointless. The way that the plot is described in the beginning happens in like the first 3 chapters, and you're like, okay, now what? Okay, now what? Like, there's no point to the rest of it. The 2 main characters who are talking in this book obviously find romance with each other, but the way that they find it is really sexual, which I don't like. I like there to be more to it. The fact that they have romance makes you think, what is the point of continuing this book on? And so things just were not progressing how I thought they should. I think I will finish this book. Maybe I'll finish it in March. If I do, I probably won't talk about it, but I wouldn't recommend this book so far unless the ending is like, wow, amazing. This just is not, it's not for me. That's as much as I got for you. The other book that I want to talk about is called I Used to Be. I am 66 pages into it. I have been treating it almost like a little devotional. It, at the end of each chapter, has a prayer that you can pray, and it's really about like grief and losing things and how to navigate that, which obviously is the season that I'm in. So I'm not rushing through this book. I'm really digesting it and really using it as like a study tool or a devotional type tool. So I am making my way through this, but obviously have not finished, and will probably finish it in March. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about it here so that, I don't know, I could get it out of that. I don't know. I just wouldn't want to talk about it after I finish it because, I don't know, it's kind of heavy. And I don't want to rate it. I don't want to give it a rating at all. I think each person who reads this will get what they want out of it. And so I'm not going to rate that. I think it's really good for me personally. So if that means anything to you, then if you're going through the same thing, check it out. Okay, you guys, I hope that inspired you in any way. If you have any amazing book recommendations that like were your favorite book ever, please leave them down below. I would love to hear from you. I hope that the Lord is blessing you in so many amazing ways this week and this month as we move into March. I cannot wait for spring weather and just winter blues to fade away. I am so excited for March and what it has in store for all of us, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye!